Welcome, everybody, to what we just realised is our first webinar of 2026. It does feel like quite a while since we did one, doesn't it, Lee?
Feels like an absolute age. I don't think it's quite as long as it feels, but yeah, it's good to be back. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I think the last one we did was in November. So we've got lots of people signed up today. I can see lots of familiar names coming through. As you may know, because if you've been on our webinars for a while, we had to lock down the Zoom um, settings, so we can't see your lovely faces as normal. We had to lock them down. 'Cause we had a bit of a rogue participant some time ago. Um, but we can use the chat, so please do use the chat to let us know where you're dialing in from today. Let's see how far the net's been cast today, Lee. It's always interesting to see that. And it's
It
always
is.
lovely
It
just to
certainly
see some
is.
familiar names, isn't it? Even though I can't see your lovely faces, just to see some names that I recognise. So, yeah, I can see a few people. Hi, Dawn. Um, Hi, Joe. There are lots of people I
Hi, Joe.
recognise on the list. So lovely to have you with us today. Um, so my name's Emma Bridger. We'll get started. It's what time? It's just gone 2 o'clock. As people are sort of joining us, we'll do the kind of the preamble piece. I'm Emma Bridger, co-founder of EX Space and founder of People Lab, and joined by Lee Smith, also co-founder of the EX Space. And today we're talking AI, and who isn't talking AI at the moment, to be fair? It's everywhere, isn't it, Lee?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the subject of the moment for sure.
Certainly is, and I think the subject of many years to come, the way things are going. So let's see. And what I do love about this topic, I find it fascinating anyway. But I love the fact we're all learning together. I think it's really great that we're all learning off each other. I mean, I learn so much from people like every day on this topic. And that's what I think is really, really great about it is, it's okay to not even make mistakes and get things wrong, but to go, I don't know. So whilst we're talking through the slides today, please contribute in the chat. Tell us about your experiences, what you know, anything that you've come across. Oh, I read this really great paper, or look, this really good tip. It's really useful because it all helps to develop the next iteration of the playbook. So yeah, just contribute to the chat. Um, I've just got to also apologise. I'm going to have to duck out about 10-15 minutes early. If you're in the UK today, you'll know we have yet another storm, another winter storm. What's this one called? Is it Chandra? Is that right? Anyone know? Look at it, Lee, like you're.
That rings a bell, something like that. Yeah, I lose track of them all. We're motoring
Anyway,
through
so
them.
so what that means, of course, is I mean the UK transport system is kind of not the most reliable at the best of times. At the minute you get any kind of adverse weather, whether it's too hot, too cold, whatever, everything just kind of it stops. So I've got to hot foot it up to Newcastle today, and it was all sorted, but my train's been cancelled, of course. I've got to go for an earlier train to actually be able to get there tonight because I live at the opposite end of the country in Hastings on the south coast. So I've got to hot foot it up to Newcastle. So apologies. I will leave you in Lee and Katie's capable hands at the end, just like kind of to wrap it up and Q&A, etc. So apologies, but I'm
Perfect.
sure any of you that are in the UK and have had to battle public transport in any point in your life will probably empathise with my travel woes today. Lee, anything else you want to add while I get the slides up?
No, I was just looking at locations. So we were really UK centric, and then we had a couple of
Ah,
folk from overseas, Toronto and Brazil. So yeah, good bit of international flavour as well today. But yeah, welcome everyone. And I think when you're ready, let's crack on.
cool. Let's do it. So today, really, when we put this together a number of months ago now, it was really about being practical. As you know, at the X Space, we're really all about helping you as practitioners to design great people first experiences. So we are going to do the practical stuff today, but I'm also going to do a little bit of big picture thinking because, as always, with the world of AI, the world moves so quickly and moves on so quickly. I felt that it was a really good opportunity to share with you. Obviously, Adam's joining us. Just a name I recognise. I'm sure it's the same Adam that I'm going to see in Newcastle tomorrow. But yeah, it was a really good opportunity to sort of share some of the latest thinking with you on AI that we've come across in the last few weeks. Just to be like, look, we're all together. Let's just share it. Let's not kind of hold back. Um, So yes, we'll get to the practical part, but we're going to do a little bit of kind of bigger picture scene setting first of all. So kind of an obvious place to start, really. The world of work has changed. We know this. So employees expect consumer grade experiences, kind of experiences that we get outside of work, we now expect inside of work. If we don't get those great experiences, we might leave, or if we don't leave, even worse, we might stay and not do a great job. So that's not in anyone's interest at all. And AI is kind of changing everything at its speed, and it's really starting. We've seen that kind of exponential kind of change now. Um, I've been playing around with AI for quite a few years. I remember like we did a webinar probably about 3 years ago. It was all about prompts and prompt engineering. We kind of, and I remember we kind of put together a white paper at the time about great prompts to use. I mean, the world's moved past that so quickly, hasn't it, Lee? You think about the sorts of things we were talking about a few years ago compared to now, very, very different. Um, so a little bit of big picture thinking here. And oh no, no, I don't want to do that. Sorry. Can you still see my slides okay, or I stop sharing?
No, they've gone.
Oh, okay. Hang on then. Press the wrong button. Bear with me. There it is.
Random.
Don't use Zoom like as much as we used to, so I'm kind of a little bit like I feel like a little bit of a just trying to figure out how to use Zoom again. It's
It's a
all
case in point, isn't it? It's a good example. We have to jump from Teams to Zoom, and in the same way with AI, we have to jump
yeah,
from between different tools, and they've all got their own quirks.
yeah. And the Google one, whichever the Google one was. But I mean, originally when we first went to lockdown, it was all about Zoom, and now I think most of us are using kind of Teams, aren't we? So, and my slides sharing again now, Lee.
Mm. They're there, clear.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So, future of work. So, as I said, this is changing every day, and I'll go into what I mean by that in just a second. But there are some really great reports out there. A little plug about the EX space here. Even as a free member, you get to access the library, and the library does a lot of the heavy lifting for you because we are researching this and keeping an eye out for latest papers and research all the time. The minute we come across something, we stick it in the library, and that is being updated like on a, if not day to day, definitely week to week basis. So these two reports are in there, but we put some new ones in just what we're putting some new ones in just this week off the back of what happened at the Davos meeting last week. So I wanted just to talk about that. Like I said, I'm going to go a bit bigger picture first of all. So Davos actually it was the World Economic Forum annual meeting, and even that's really interestingly because I think back to maybe 10 years or so. I don't even know how long it's been going, and it wasn't even something that I was aware of. In the last sort of maybe
Mm.
plus years, I really pay attention to this because it's really, really relevant to the sorts of work that we do. I don't know if you found the same as well.
It's a
Um,
big deal. Yeah, it's a real big deal now for sure.
Absolutely, because so much of it is linked to the work that we do. And Davos kind of made the headlines last week for a lot of the wrong reasons, i.e., David Beckham was there and it was all the kind of fallout of the whole Beckham saga. Won't be going into that today. That's a conversation for another time. And obviously the Trump stuff as well. But there's some really interesting kind of themes that have come out of all the conversations that are happening, not all of them, but many of the conversations that are happening over there. And we've done a more in-depth blog on this. It's on the EX space on People Lab. I think it's going live this week around kind of key themes to take away from Davos last week. But so much of the conversation was about how AI is impacting the world of work. So I'm not going to go into this in loads of detail, but again, like I said, we do a lot of the heavy lifting for you at the X space in that rather than feeling overwhelmed by all this stuff that's going on and having to keep ahead of it all or keep up to date with it all, it's kind of one-stop shop for all of that. So a couple of the kind of key things that came out. So this idea that, I think many of us, when we started using AI, it was really about kind of automating some tasks or doing some tasks for us, like, rewriting copy or analyzing some data. What we see now is that we're moving into this next phase where AI is actually redesigning the way that work is done. I went to a great webinar last week run by Josh Bersin, previously of Deloitte. He does a lot of work around this topic, does some great papers, although a lot of his are locked down, unfortunately, behind firewalls, so you can't get hold of it. And even the slides on the webinar last week, he wasn't sharing. But A lot of what he was talking about was we're kind of moving into this era of like companies now really redesigning the way work gets done, and the org charts, the structures are looking very different, if not today, very soon in the future. Um, People strategy is now the differentiator, right? So organizations have all got access to the same tools, most of them have anyway. What separates them is who is keeping up with how do we use these tools, how do they support learning, the experience, the way we design work, and those who are just saying we don't really want to think about them, and those who are saying we don't want to use them. And even in our line of work, people like the clients they're working with who are in very similar sectors, the way they are approaching using AI at work is so different. Like some similar companies in the same sector, and I won't say who, are embracing it, and others are going, no, no, it's locked down, you can't use it. So what are people doing? They're using it through the back door because it's a really useful tool at work. So you can see how the way we approach the people side of the business is a big differentiator. Skills are becoming a core infrastructure. We talk a lot about skills. We've talked a lot about skills. We published a white paper on the EX archetypes, which is really about the core skills for the future. What wasn't even last year, was it? It was the year before, I think.
Yeah, before, yeah.
Yeah, so we were ahead of the curve on that one, and it was it luck or judgment? Let's say it was judgment that our research, what we came out with in our research, absolutely mapped to what the WEF were talking about at the time and what they're talking about now, which is that the sorts of skills we need. Number four, human skills matter more, not less. So this idea of moving from being expert led to much more kind of human, people first, human capabilities like judgment, creativity, courage, sense making, absolutely central to value creation, because the kind of skills that were based in expertise of old are much less relevant because AI can do all of that now. So some kind of really key themes coming out here. And these are big themes from last week. Like I say, that I think more than ever map to the sorts of work that we do on the people side of the business. As I'm going through this, please do put comments and thoughts in the chat because I'd love to know what you think. As I said, we're all learning together on this. And there's kind of no right or wrong answer here. We're just kind of figuring out what do we do with all this? Where do we go with this? A couple more things. AI adoption is stalling in some places or many places where there's kind of low confidence, unclear expectations, etc. Um, it is a people and experience issue. Clearly, those companies who are getting to grips with this, they're going to experience the benefits. They're going to be able to make the most of the opportunity. Trust, fairness, and inclusion, though, are strategic concerns. I'll come on to that in just a second, or not a few slides time. These are really, really big watch outs for where we go with AI. Um, it's not just about responsible AI isn't just about governance, i.e. the guardrails and how we use it. There's a lot more to it than that. The kind of ethics side, the integrity side. We could do like a whole like series of webinars on that because at the moment AI is based on kind of what we put into it, and that's very biased, as we know. And where that goes in the future, there is a whole Pandora's box we're going to be opening, which I'll come on to in just a sec. So the bottom line here is that the future work will absolutely not be won by tech alone. The tech platform is actually, if not level, it is more level than it's been in many, many years. It's going to be shaped by those organizations who are staying curious. They're really leaning into that human side, and being intentional about how the work really happens. So this all absolutely fits with this kind of intentional design of a people first employee experience. So all these kind of themes are really coming together here. I don't know if you've got anything to add on any of that, Lou, or anything that's kind of occurring to you as I move on, or
I don't think so, but just to point out in the chat, that exact point is sort of borne out. There's some, we've got Gartner research that shows less than 20% of companies have an agreed why for embracing AI, why implement
yeah,
AI. So
yeah,
they're not even off the starting base yet. Then you've got others like Visa that have a very clear why that's linked to creativity and well-being rather than efficiency and workforce reduction. So
mm,
we're all at very different points on this journey. Some just getting
yeah.
started, some in denial, and some racing ahead.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that'd be quite a good one for us to take away and look at would be to look at the different sorts of whys around companies who are really leading the way and what their sort of stated ambition is for using AI. I think so we could pick that up and share that with you. So thank you for sharing that. Um, a little bit more on the big picture before I get stuck into the practical bit, which is why you're all here. This came out of the WEF report, which was launched just this month on the future of work and the future of jobs. And it's in our library if you want to access that, or it will be in the library when it gets uploaded either today or tomorrow. But really, really well worth a read. And I love this. Who doesn't love a four box grid, right? I'm a consultant. I love a four box grid, but I thought this was really useful. And, if you're working with stakeholders who are a little bit kind of, fingers in the ears, pretending it's not happening, this is a really great sort of stimulus to get them thinking about this around this kind of AI advancement versus workforce readiness. And these four different scenarios here. And they are scenarios, so we don't know which will play out. My sense is probably all of them, because I'm seeing actually some of these already, or all of these already even. What I've done is a nice plain, or actually what I got ChatGPT to do is a nice plain English version of this, just to explain to you what this is all about. So the top right box, the supercharged progress, that's where AI accelerates fast. So there's companies that are like really embracing this and they're kind of, investing in this and they're being intentional about this. But they're also recognizing that they've got to do the same for their people. They've got to take that human first, people first approach. So, yes, they get the innovation saw, but they also get the productivity saw as well. But the downside could be, and this is just a scenario, that the ethics and equality might struggle to keep up. The age of displacement, which is where the AI is accelerating quicker than the people can adapt. Now, I've seen this in a number of organizations where it's just kind of running away and people are just going, what the hell's going on? So automation outpaces reskilling. This is where we see those companies who are already doing this. We've seen this happening out for us, right? Those companies who are making mass redundancies, again, it's okay, we've got AI to do it. This is the age of displacement. So we're already seeing this, right? Where mass displacement, social strain, loss of trust. I think the people in that quadrant will be the big losers because I don't think I'm going to say this right, but I think it's a very, very short-termist view, short-term kind of stakeholder value versus longer term in genuine innovation. So I think early signs is that these people will be seen to be winning the race, but I think even medium to longer term they absolutely won't because you still need the human side to make the most of these opportunities. The co-pilot economy, we don't necessarily mean Microsoft there, but the kind of the word co-pilot, they did it's a great bit of branding there. This is where it's more kind of sort of steady and more pragmatic, a lot more pragmatic. So yes, AI advances steadily, but the skills keep pace. So I'm seeing this in some sort of, I would say, pioneering companies who are really thinking intentionally about this, and they're just kind of thinking it all through and taking their time, but not ignoring it, but kind of going, let's just pause and think about this. So the human AI collaboration becomes the norm. So work is redesigned around the augmentation, not replacement. So I think this is a really good place to be. And then there's a stall progress where AI advances, but the skills lag. Adoption is patchy, so some people are using it, some people are not. Productivity gains are uneven, and frustration grows. So I think those are sort of the four scenarios that WF paints at the moment. This is for 2030, by the way. So not that far away at all, given we're 2026 is 4 years' time. So again, love your thoughts on this. Lee, have you got any views on this before I move on? Is there any of that speaking?
I think I mean, just the observation, the speed at which this is happening, rewind 4 or 5 years, AI wasn't even on our radar. Here it is, it's a game changer. We're talking about 2030, just a few years away here. And that gap between the AI haves and those that don't have it or don't embrace it is just going to get bigger and bigger. So
Yeah,
we're in the midst of a really pivotal time to reshape work, and at the heart of it is this decision around, is AI about efficiency or is it about elevating the experience and elevating the nature of work, which is where
absolutely.
we're coming from.
Yeah. Exciting times if you have an optimistic mindset. Um, I'm not going to go into this in any detail, but I just wanted to share it with you so you got it on the slide. So this is kind of what we're seeing with companies we work with, and I think this kind of maps to what I've shared before, but this is kind of much more my observations. So This I think will resonate. So we've got those companies at sort of the most basic level. I'm sure there's a model in here somewhere, Lee. Think about kind of the old
Mhm.
models we used to do about kind of the evolution of different sorts of internal comms or EX or HR. But those companies who are sort of using AI as to do tasks, to do stuff. And that's kind of where I started with AI. It's like, oh, draft me an email, write me some copy. Summarize the WF future of work scenarios for me in a plain English way. That I just said, that kind of like just do something for me, simple, straightforward. This is great, saves time, but the work itself hasn't changed. AI is sitting on top. It's just doing some stuff for me. We've got those who are using it where it's much more integrated into everyday work. So this is how it starts to reshape how work gets done. So some companies are investing in AI tools to help them, say, with recruitment, onboarding, or different parts of the life cycle. Um, it's built into workflows and tools and processes. It does support with decision making, maybe using bots in there. Humans spend less time producing, but more time judging and shaping. So it's freeing us up. There's better focus, there's more quality. The work is getting redesigned here, not just sped up. So we're starting to see that with those companies that I think are more kind of pioneering and more ahead of the curve. This is where we get into that kind of co-pilot place where there's genuine collaboration. So people are working with it, not just through it. So really thinking about maybe and something that we did recently, we looked at kind of different actually I think we did it for the book, Lee, I think it was for the book.
Mm.
It might have been for the guide. It was for the guidance we did afterwards, actually. So the we've got a webinar next week specifically on AI and internal comms. And I know for the guidance that we wrote, we looked at how job descriptions might be reworked with AI. So this is the bit that I will do. That's the bit AI can do. And here's how we'll collaborate together. So there's a real clear division right from the offset. So it's much more intentional rather than number one, where I'm just getting it to do some stuff for me. So I'm going to lead on kind of the human skills that are needed, that the WEF really recognises and we've recognised. So the judgment, the creativity, the relationships. But AI is going to handle a lot of the scale, pattern spot, and execution. So this is about augmentation, not replacement. But this does need new skills and confidence and role clarity. And I know, Lee and I were sort of sharing kind of some key elements of the People First internal comms book with a team last week. And the minute we do that, we talk about kind of the future of kind of the role in internal comms. And people sort of do react to that because a lot of what internal communicators were known for previously in terms of expertise, that's not going to be the case moving forwards. And people feel understandably quite threatened, quite defensive by that. And it's same for kind of every area. I mean, look at, L&D, for example. L&D, what L&D used to do in terms of, say, instructional learning, instructional design, that's really changed with AI now. So it's thinking about, well, okay, how can I work with it to collaborate with it, but intentionally design what we do together moving forwards. And then we've got the world of agents. So some people are starting to experiment with agents. I know I've experimented with agents. We're going to do a whole webinar on this coming soon, but this is where we kind of build, I guess, agents which are almost like extra team members, if you like, to do whole chunks of work without me needing to get involved. So it's starting to get into that much more autonomous kind of role of AI. So they might run processes, coordinate tasks, manage workflows. You can have agents for all sorts of parts of the work. We decide what they're there to do and how they'll do it, but they just kind of the role shifts from doing to orchestrating. This is a real step change in productivity. So this is kind of, I guess, where we're going with this. And I think what we found is that most organizations are probably at stage one or stage two and not fully ready for stage three and four yet. And not because the tech isn't there, because it absolutely is. And anyone that's got Copilot, I know a few of our clients are experimenting with agents. And I won't say who they are in case it's top secret, but they are starting to use agents. But they're not quite there yet. It's very much experimentation, dipping your toe in the water. Um, just before I move on, there's one last thing I want to say, and this is very much future place now, but I do want to flag it. Artificial general intelligence. So this at the moment isn't we're not there. We don't have this yet. I think it's safe to say that all the tech companies are racing to be the first to crack this, and the general kind of consensus is it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. And this is really about, I remember when I did my psychology degree all those years ago, we learned about this kind of real future state stuff. This is where AGI, where AI can actually think, learn, and make decisions independently without the human kind of intervention or need. So this is where it can do it for itself without us needing to get involved. And we've got some kind of best case scenarios and some worst case scenarios there, depending on your view. And there's a lot of debate going around at the moment about what this looks like. I actually did a blog post or a LinkedIn post this week around the fact, for example, that a lot of people are using ChatGPT, particularly, and other AI as a kind of a counselor, a coach, a therapist, a friend. And there's a lot of research, well, there's not a lot of research, but there's some initial research coming out that shows that for a lot of people that's okay. But for some people who have got stuff in their past, different sorts of attachment types, this can be quite dangerous and can lead to mental health conditions. So this opens up this huge Pandora's box around our responsibility, the governance, where we get involved, where we don't get involved. What is this going to mean for the future of work? And I just wanted to sow that seed because I have no idea, but would love to involve a bunch of you in starting to kick this around because I think we have to get into this conversation sooner rather than later. The kind of the optimistic kind of sort of folks are saying this will happen in the next sort of 3 to 5 years. Most people think about sort of 10 to 20 years, but it's coming, right? So this is going to be there at some point. So just I wanted to sow that seed because we're all together. I thought, why would I not just sort of talk about this? But again, this is a webinar for another day. I'd love to kick this around with some of you. Lee, anything to add before we get into the practical part of today then?
I mean, just to make the obvious point that we're in this sort of weird transitionary period where there's a very real fear. Rachel shared some research in the US where a third of employees say they're actively sabotaging AI implementation. So there's a
Wow.
real fear there of this
Yeah.
sort of bold new future where us humans aren't really necessary. And then the other side is that excitement with once you start to play with these tools and realize the power and the way it can free you up to do other value adding stuff, it's super exciting. But somewhere in there, so it's tricky. It's change, isn't it? It's transformation and all of the stuff that comes with it. But yeah, that transition isn't going to be smooth. It's going to be painful and take all of us pulling in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So it will come as no surprise that we think the future belongs to human-centered design. This is what we really need to kind of focus in on. So I'm going to talk about the practical side. So yeah, it's here. We know this. We talk about this, and um, we really just shift from processes to people. So we need emotionally intelligent design. We need to think about this using our kind of design approach. So being intentional about it. What's the problem we're trying to solve? Why are we using this? Um, and I love this phrase, let the machines make it faster, let the humans make it matter. And this is why we need an approach, actually, not just to employee experience, but to the whole people side of business. We've got to kind of I'm not saying rip it up and start again, absolutely not. But we need to kind of really be brave and come at this from quite a different viewpoint and perspective to what you have done previously. Um, and AI can give us the speed and scale, but I believe human-centered design gives us the soul that we need. And actually, for me, anyone that was on Josh's webinar last week, it was great, but I felt it was really missing the soul. It was all about, it was so heavily weighted to the tech and what the tech can do. It kind of forgot about the human side, the people first side. And I strongly believe that like with the WF paper, that the real kind of benefit comes when we work in collaboration, right? So let's not forget about us as human beings. We have a lot to contribute here. So, these human strengths, and again, like I say, all of the research, WEF, Microsoft, and lots of others talk about how these strengths are going to be dialed up and more critical than ever. So we've got the curiosity, the creativity, etc. And those are skills that AI doesn't have, at least today. Who knows the future, but not today and not for a very, very long time. So it's a new kind of partnership. So I think that the employee life cycle is a really useful place to start when getting practical. Well, which parts of the life cycle are we focusing on and why? and how can AI help us? So what I've done is I've taken some elements of our guide. So those of you that are involved with the EX space, you've got kind of a free sort of I guess toolkit if you like. It's about 12 pages or so. That's a freebie. But then for those paying members, you've got a much more in-depth kind of many more pages guide that gives you some really, really good tools and practical sorts of prompts and tools, etc., as to how you can use AI across the employee life cycle. I think it just makes it much more kind of user friendly and pragmatic and like, okay, I'm working in, you know, at the offer stage, or I'm working in the induction stage. How could I use AI? I'm just going to give you a few examples to bring this to life. So, designing belonging from day one. So, no surprise, I pulled this one out, onboarding, because I say it's probably the single most broken experience for organizations that we get involved with. It's nearly always where we start with our kind of EX design work. It's like, okay, onboarding isn't working. Um, and this is a really good example of where we can collaborate with AI and where we still need us, right? So, and this is what I felt that, Josh Basin talked about onboarding last week. And he got all these amazing tools, that, that he's his AI tools, if you like. And they did all these witty things, but what they didn't do was the human bit. And I always share this story, and it still haunts me, as my husband calls it. It's a golden ball of pain. Apologies for those of you that heard this millions of times, but years ago, I started a company when I was in-house. And the onboarding, as slick as it was, on day one, I was in the office, as we all were back then, and all the team, my boss wasn't there, but all the team went off to lunch. They ignored me all day, went off to lunch. No one asked me to go to lunch. No one told me where to go to get food, right? So no matter what whizzy, slick AI tool you've got to kind of, put that onboarding workflow in place, if your experience of day one is that people aren't very nice to you and everyone goes off for lunch and doesn't invite you, that's what you're going to remember. And all of that whizzy stuff means nothing because that's the thing you remember, right? So yes, AI can automate the admin tasks. It can generalize sort of personalized onboarding plans. Brilliant. Get into personas here. What are you interested in? What do you want to know? Some people like, I mean, I'm a kind of sort of person, I'm a real reader on day one. I want everything. I want to read through everything. I want to know everything. Other people are like, oh, it's a bit overwhelming. Just drip feed it. So I love the idea of personalizing an onboarding approach. Great. AI can help with that. You can ask some questions and figure out the best way to do it. Can deliver just-in-time learning and FAQs and track sentiment. Fantastic. All that stuff that previously we would have dreamt about, but would not had the kind of time or money to do it. But there's a human side. We can't forget this, right? So humans create a personal connection and moments of welcome. Even if it's not in person, even online via Zoom or Teams, it still matters. Humans can sense emotional needs. So we can pick up if someone's feeling a bit anxious or isolated or uncertain. We've all had people join our teams over the years and we thought, oh, something's not quite right there. Or, somebody doesn't feel, well, they're not really asking all the questions. They look a bit like rabbit in the headlights. And we pick up on that. AI can't pick up on that, right? So we might do something about that. The humans can build the cultural understanding and create that human connection and respond with empathy and support when someone's struggling. So I hope that brings that to life a little bit in terms of why both are absolutely critical and needed. And got some examples in practice here. Again, I'm not going to read through all this, but you can have a look at this when you get the slides. But we've got some prompts here you can try in your preferred AI tool, whatever you use. You might want to design a journey. You might want to personalize content. You might want to spot early risks. You might want to automate the admin. There's so much you can do. We go into this in more detail in the guides. So AI can help you plan onboarding and make it very personal and take a lot of the lead work out, but it can't do that critical piece around making someone feel like they belong. That still comes back to our superpowers that we talk about. So yeah, use AI where you can, but think about the human side as well. Hopefully that makes sense. Any thoughts on you on that, Lee? Any thoughts from you on that, Lee?
Yeah, again, I think it's just we're talking here today about employee experience, and emotions are absolutely the heart of that. And experience, by definition, is something that leaves an emotional impression on you. And actually, a lot of that comes through people. We look at the engagement literature and the importance of line managers to creating that everyday EX, that everyday experience. So yeah, so the digital can only go so far, and I think one of the key opportunities is here is how we use that tech to empower frontline people, managers, leaders to do a better job at that emotional connection piece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a couple more examples. In the actual the guidance itself, we go through many more parts of the employee life cycle to show you how and where you can use AI. So learning and development. So I know this is a field that I've felt, they're really feeling it in terms of AI because I think AI has been used very successfully to do a lot of the expertise that L&D designers did of old. So yeah, AI can recommend that personalized learning pathway. Brilliant. So no more kind of, sheep dip one size fits all. It can look at skills gaps and suggest development actions. It can look at sentiment, employee sentiment. It can analyze what's going on in employees' lives and sort of say, hey, I think they might really benefit from this, or you might benefit from this, supporting employees to figure it out for themselves, etc., etc. But humans understand what motivates people to learn. So, it isn't just a rational thing, this. There's a lot more to it. Um, that coaching side of things. Humans can shape the learning journeys that align with the culture, values, and purpose, and they can coach with empathy. I mean, I've used AI like many of us have as a quick like, oh, how should I handle this or what should I do in that? But I can't imagine having this sort of breakthrough. I mean, when I had I've had coaches many times in my career, and I'm a qualified coach as well. And I remember years ago sitting down with a coach when I was in-house, and out of nowhere popped this light bulb that I wanted to start my own business. And something I'd always said I would never do because my parents were self-employed and I'd seen the blood, sweat, and tears that went into running their business. And the highs were high, but the lows were low. And at one point, when I was younger, they'd lost the house we lived in, and we had to move to a different house, etc. So I was like, I would never work for myself. And this one coaching session, this popped out, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Where did that come from? I can't imagine a time when AI could get that out of me or anyone else, right? So there's still very much a role for that human coaching and that authenticity, and that when we are doing that kind of when I'm in a room with people, it's why I find writing facilitation guides so difficult because I bring so many kind of anecdotes and stories to life that I don't know what I'm going to say. I mean, obviously I've got a plan. Of course I've got a plan. I'm not that ADHD, but when I'm on my feet in the room, something will occur to me that won't have been in my plan that'd be really relevant, right? And it'd be, actually, it reminds me of a time or someone once told me, and all those things that are in my head that I couldn't ever get out onto paper because there's too many of them. I bring them to life and they help to kind of really embed the learning. That's where the human side of L&D really comes in as well. So this is just a snapshot. There's a lot more to it than that. So again, we've got some examples in practice here, but there are different prompts that we share in the guide around how you might use AI. Um, and we say always review the results for cultural and ethical fit. And we know that AI can also lie as well. But generating learning content. I mean, something I use AI a lot for is the classic kind of team builders and energizers. And I always struggle to think, oh God, which ones have I used before that worked really well? And now it's like, oh great, and I've like a whole kind of like box of stuff I can use around that. So creating learning pathways or different feedback. There's so many areas it can help, but we still need us to bring that human side to the L&D sort of journey. I think I've got one more as well here. Well-being and engagement. Again, clearly AI. I mean, those of you that ever had the joy of running the survey, and I did in-house, and we've done a lot for clients, going through all those kind of free response questions. Wow, it used to take me days. And it's a game changer having AI to analyze the sentiment data. But again, only I won't just do I won't just rely on AI on its own. I'll always look at it as well myself and think, well, does it match up? Um, identifying patterns, drafting well-being communications, all sorts of different ways you can use AI in this field. But what it can't do is really interpret what people mean. So much kind of we took all this kind of collective sense making in the workshops we do, and we kind of talk about clues, hunches, and themes. And the clues are the facts, the kind of the raw data, if you like, even the insights. But often we bring a kind of an extra layer to that. Say, well, I think what we might find is the reason that's happening over there is this is going on, or that person said that at a town hall that went down really badly with people. And I would never know that context, right? So that's still really critical. explore the trends, shape the messages, etc. Decide what's going to be right for your culture, values, and people. So many areas still that we can really bring in the human side when it comes to this area. And again, here are some prompts you can try around things like analyzing data. Spotting early risks, I think, is a big one I've seen used with, which is really, really powerful around really using the data intelligently. So rather than using kind of survey data as a lag data, start to look at many more data points to spot the early signs of burnout, disengagement, or exit, and personalizing support. Um, lots of ways we can really work effectively with AI to do a really great job and facilitate a great experience here. Um, so I've put in here directly from the guidance itself a slide on guardrails. Now I'm not normally one for things like governance and guardrails. So if I am kind of really getting on board with this, I think that says a lot. It must be really important. I sort of shy away from the idea of principles and rules, but I think it's absolutely critical because we're in this kind of wild west and brave new world to really think about what are the guardrails as EX designers or on the people side of business. Um, how do we design with care? What principles do we have? And again, I've put some examples there. Review these, use them if they're useful, and build on them. So I'm not going to go through them all, but for example, people first always, clearly I'm going to like that one. Always check for bias, experiment safely. So we're all up for pilots and prototyping and testing. So start small, test in low risk areas, feedback, etc. So have a think about what guardrails you need to put in place because they will protect you. They're critical for the way that this is being used, especially because we just are still figuring out how this is all unfolding and how this is really impacting the people that we have kind of some responsibility at work from a health and safety point of view. And it's a Pandora's box when you start getting into it. So this is going to be critical to show intent. Um, bringing it all together. This is the design approach we use. I think it's a really useful framework for any kind of EX work or people side of the business work. Um, we always say don't jump straight to solutions. So don't sort of say, right, we're going to use AI, let's start using it. Always start at the beginning. What's the scope? How do you want to use it here? What problem are we trying to solve? Why are we using it? Let's take that people first approach and only then get sort of testing and learning solutions here. So absolutely use it at a big picture in terms of how you work with AI, but also use the ecosystem for the actual kind of places in the life cycle you're using AI. So if you're using it for onboarding, if you're using it for L&D, you can use the ecosystem to help you to, again, put those guardrails in place and make sure you use it in a really responsible way. So just very quickly, so I'm conscious I've got to shoot off in a couple of minutes. We've talked about skills already, and I've mentioned this quite a bit. So I mentioned that EX archetype. So we'll send out a link to this because we do go into this in a lot more detail. It does map beautifully onto the WEF research around the sorts of skills that we see are in demand. And I think this is something we can probably revisit fairly soon because this is changing all the time. But what we came up with a couple of years ago based on our research still very much holds true today. So definitely worth having a look at that for skills that we think are critical today and will continue to be critical in the future. So just to finish up then, AI is not going to replace us, but if you fail to embrace it, you could become obsolete. So this is all about, I think, us getting ahead of the game here, and rather than just letting this being done to us, really thinking about how do we get future fit? How do we make sure we are up to speed with what's going on? How do we make the case for that collaboration, that augmented practice to make sure we are not displaced and we're using AI in a responsible and ethical way to really genuinely improve the experience that people have and improve the kind of the performance of the organization as well. So I think we need to get on the front foot. And what we're seeing is actually, interestingly, from the research we've done, I think the world of HR and the people side of the business is probably more ahead than the internal comm side, what we're finding, which is really interesting because not normally, often the other way around, but we're seeing those in IC are kind of really lagging in this area compared to those in HR, people, culture, etc. So that's been really interesting kind of finding that we've got. Love to hear what you think though. Um, So your 3 point action plan, get curious, just try things out, experiment. This is going nowhere. Have some fun with it.
Mhm.
Also get human. Think about where you bring the value. What can't AI do? And get designing. So a really simple way to do that is to start to play around with journey maps. And there's some tools we can share with you to help you to do that. So map and improve some journeys at different parts of the employee lifecycle we shared. Where do you want to get stuck in? And where might AI help you with mapping and improving that journey? And where do you need to kind of really dial up your human, your people first skills? So that's the link. If you're not already part of the EX space, that's your link to get involved. Join up for free. And I'm gonna end it there and hand over to Liz. I start to pack myself up. I'll keep it on as I'm packing myself. I need to run for my train to hot foot it up to the
Well
north.
done, Emma.
And thank you everyone for joining us. I can't wait. I'll have a look at the comments on my train journey up. But love to hear
Almost to the minute. Well done. You better
59.
run for your train. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks. Right. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, just I think I'll go back to my point that, this is about viewing AI as a tool to enhance experience, really, to elevate the the workplace rather than to drive efficiency. And I think that's the really key point. Emma's little action plan there is bang on. But it's that mindset that we can use this to turbocharge what we do, to do the heavy lifting, to free us up to be able to do more of the value added, deeply human work that AI can never touch. So that's the sort of final sort of call to action, I guess, on that one. Um, Katie, I think you're still around in the background. I've been keeping a lookout for questions. I think they've probably mostly been picked up as Emma's gone through. Any you want to call out, or any other reflections
I think
from the
that's it.
chat?
Yeah, I think that's it, Lee. I think there are a lot more reflections than questions, really.
Mm,
His own observations about what they've seen. Claire, for example, says she totally agrees around the qualitative results from staff surveys. It's really, really helpful, but it absolutely still needs that human touch to
yeah,
overlay that context, which is often where the nuance lies. And I think that's it, isn't it? Really, in a nutshell, is about using it together for the right things and looking at where the tech can help us and where we can help get the best results as human beings as well. So
yeah, and this is the glass half full. It's the enormous opportunity that this provides to enhance our roles, really, and be put us as EXHR IC professionals really at the heart of things more than ever before, because it's no longer is it about churning out stuff and plans and all that. It's about the deeply human stuff that has often been squeezed around all the other stuff that we've got to do. So yeah, glass half full, big optimistic forward look here. um Okay, I think we wrap it up there. We have another, as Emma mentioned, we have another webinar coming up next week, 3 p.m. next Wednesday, UK time. A similar format to this, but very much focused on using AI within the internal communication space. So Emma and I, only a month or so ago, published a book called People First Internal Communication, and the big burning platform for that is the introduction of AI, and how AI can start to do that heavy lifting and free us up as IC professionals to do that deeply human work. So we'll be coming at that with a very IC specific lens next Wednesday. If you're able to join us, if that's up your street, we look forward to hosting you again then. Just a quick dive back into chat, Katie, in case there's anything else.
I was just going to say, Lee, I've added the link to next week's webinar into the chat
Superb.
as well. So
Yeah,
if that is something that you're interested in, there's a link directly to sign up for that one in the chat as well. So we'll take a
amazing.
slightly different look at how AI can help you as IC professionals as well. So
Fantastic. So there's a few links in the chat to those various tools and freebies that we've mentioned. Um, Dive in and have a look at those, and we'll share the slides. And this will be on replay as well in YouTube, etc. In the coming days. But thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for your observations and insights, and thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.
Brilliant. And just one last tiny little thing. A couple of people in the chat have asked about the slides and the recording. We'll send that to you as well. So if you signed up via the Eventbrite link, then you'll automatically get that coming through. And if you're already an EX Space member or follower, then we'll also be sending that to you directly anyway. So you'll be able to get all of that there.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.